All right, time for some friendly fire with our main man, Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell, Whitlock and Cosell. Steve, I've got something interesting here for us to talk about. Deion Sanders. I don't know if, did you get to watch any of the game on Saturday? I had to stream it over YouTube, but I watched the game. And then I watched Deion's post-game press conference where he threw his offensive coordinator basically under the bus. I think Sean Lewis, the offensive coordinator at Colorado, probably has the toughest job in all of college football. He's got to coach the coach's kid at quarterback. But let's play the clip, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Coach Prime.
There was a drive late in the third quarter where I think Shedeur got sacked to end the drive. He goes off the sideline, he's sitting by himself. The offense is down here.
He's mad.
Yeah.
He's upset with the way this looks.
You can tell
He's upset with the way it's going. He's upset with hit after hit after hit. You think he's happy being the most sacked guy in the in college football, and he's still doing what he's capable of doing? He's sick of it.
So when he comes out that next drive, I mean, that was the pivotal drive, I thought. How key was that drive for him coming out like that? Just
every drive is key. Every drive is key. He always does this. You've seen this every darn week, man. This ain't new to you. You've seen this every week. You see him do this every week. It's like we waiting on him to put on his cape and do what he does. That's what he does every week. You guys should be accustomed to it by now.
Coach.
There was another moment in there where he talked about how the coaches need to do better and we got to put them in a better position. He at one point, he called out his defensive coordinator in a positive way that Coach Kelly called a good game. He never mentioned the offensive coordinator by name, and you can tell he's frustrated, and he talks about how much better things should be going because we have this great quarterback. A dad coaching his son at quarterback, or the head coach of a team with his son at quarterback in major college football, this is a recipe for chaos and Little League, Pee Wee football type stuff going on.
You know, I'm just wondering if Sean Lewis in the back of his mind, if like a thought bubble saying, well, gee, Coach Prime, if you would have brought in some Louis that was offensive line related, maybe your son wouldn't get hit like an everlast punching bag. Now, let me just say this. I've actually thought Coach Prime mostly has handled himself very well, despite what you think. I actually like some of his comments. He's been this right here is a bad look. This right here, I'm like, come on, Prime. The answer should have been the player, not my son. The player needs to be with the coach. We do not like that. You're acting petulant. By the way, you're running a spread offense with almost no running game or very little, and your offensive line is bad. What do you think's going to happen here? By the way, Shedeur Sanders, after that game, that thrilling victory over maybe the 10th best team in the conference, is out there taunting the Arizona State student section. I actually find him to be much more obnoxious than Coach Prime. I'm just going to lay it out there. You do all the YouTube videos you want, though you Prime jock snippers. You're sad, you're pathetic. I'm going to give you some chum, lay off Jason, do a video on me. I don't care. But I'm like, bro, you just literally beat maybe the third worst team in the conference. And, you know, there was an interesting report that came out that a Pac-12 assistant coach said that Shedeur Sanders is protecting his statistics by not releasing the ball, not wanting to lower his completion percentage, and taking sacks. Now, I don't know about that because I don't think any quarterback says, you know what, just hit me. Just hit me, sack me. I actually think there's a case if he's doing check down Charlie, if he's passing up downfield shots just to throw the ball, you know, to a running back out into the flat. But the Shedeur, to me, the way he comes off, I really wonder what it's going to be like without the protective bubble of his father at the next level. I don't think that act's going to play well, Jason.
It comes off, Jerry, very Johnny Manziel-ish is how he comes off, and that did not go over well in the NFL. He is in a protective bubble with his dad there, and listen, Steve, their offensive line is not great, but I'm not sure if it's as bad as it's being forced to look, because they could have established the running game. The running game was there for them against Arizona State. When they chose to ran the ball, they were pretty effective. They just wouldn't stick with it. And so I'm not sure if Shedeur is holding the football as much as Colorado is throwing the football and running a hurry-up offense constantly, because Deion wants his son to have the best stats in college football. And he is leading the nation in passing yards. It's no different in high school. A dad would be the head coach, and his son would be a 6'1", 6'2", point guard, shooting guard, or whatever, and he'd average 48 points a game because his dad, everything was built around the kid's son. That's what we're seeing here with Shedeur. I think he's got some talent. I don't think he's, I think he's a really good player, but are they utilizing him in a way to win games, or are they utilizing him in a way to showcase him for the NFL? That's what I think is going on here with Deion and his son. It's not about winning. It's about, as it relates to offense, it's about showcasing Shedeur.
Well, Sean Lewis has a catch-22. Okay, so let's say he does the old Chuck Knox. I'm going to establish that run game and protect my quarterback and keep the defense off the field. And by the way, still great value in that. Well, here's the problem. Then the coach would say, well, why are you taking the cape off of my son? My son is Superman. That's the inference, right? And obviously, Deion Sanders is a vital player, might be the best on the offensive side of the ball. Well, why are you taking the ball out of his hands then by leaning on the run game? And then Sean Lewis is okay. So now we're going to be Air Shedeur. Well, here's the problem. If you don't have any semblance of balance and you put all that pressure into the throw game and you don't have a great offensive line, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get hit. And by the way, this is not the first time that program has had that dynamic. I remember years ago when it was Coach Dan Hawkins what led the Buffalo program, and there was a lot of issues that got dicey and caused a lot of controversy because his son, Cody Hawkins, I believe was his name, was the starting quarterback. And guess what? That didn't work out well either. So these things correlate in a lot of different ways.
So I knew my memory was right. Anthony Hankerson averaged nearly 6 yards a carry on his 10 carries. On his 10 carries. In a game that was close throughout, they had a chance to run the ball. They ended up running it 30 times, but 11 of those runs are Shedeur, either him getting sacked and it's getting counted as a run. He threw it 42 times. I'm telling you, there was an opportunity to run the football there with Hankerson, take some pressure off that offensive line, establish the play-action passing game, which they have not done or don't do consistently. This whole thing, and I'm glad you brought up the Dan Hawkins deal, because I knew there had to be some examples of head coaches with their sons at quarterback. I think it's one of the most difficult balancing acts. And trust me, the kids on that team, they can see Deion favoring his son and running a team to showcase his son at quarterback.
Jason.
Go ahead.
Let's say a star receiver or a star edge rusher doesn't like the scheme or the game plan for that week, but he's not Deion's son. And when they come off the sideline, he says something to the coach and he stands away from his position. Would Deion say, well, that's Superman? Would he be okay with it? You can lose a locker room like that. Here's the other thing with Shedeur, and I've noticed this about the games that I've seen. He does a really good job of extending plays, and he's a good athlete. Not a great athlete, but he's a very good athlete. The problem is there's a downside. When you have that ability to extend plays, you're going to get hit more. If you look historically, some of your most athletic quarterbacks like Randall Cunningham used to get sacked a ton in Philadelphia. While it's the unathletic guys like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and Tom Brady that understand, like, this is a grenade and I got to get rid of it, they historically actually get sacked less. So athletically, if you do not understand the timing mechanism of a play and when to just kill it, you're actually putting yourself at more risk regardless of how athletic you are. So that's part of the risk that Shedeur has to look at himself and say, my style of play actually gets me hit more than if I would just chuck the ball and just say, you know what, let's start over with the next play.
Deion, after the game, took a dump on his team, and I found it interesting. And people will question the sincerity of what I'm about to say, but I promise you it's 1,000% sincere. I actually left that game Saturday night halfway impressed with Colorado. Stadium was full, excited crowd. They go on the road and pull off a victory. And again, was it the way, as crisp or as what? But again, you go on the road, conference game, you just played USC. There was a chance for an emotional letdown and to toss away a game. I left there I was more impressed with what they did against Arizona State, at Arizona State, than I was the week before when they played a close on the scoreboard game with USC. Deion celebrates a loss against USC and then turns around and takes a dump on a victory against Arizona State. And he's wondering why his team isn't playing with the fire and the emotion early in games that he won. They just celebrated a loss the week before and then turns around and takes a dump on them for winning. I'm telling you, I'm looking at a very inexperienced head coach that's flying by the seat of his pants and is worried about his son and his son's NFL future and his son being in the Heisman Trophy race. That's Deion taking care of his son, but I'm not sure if he's taking care of that football team. I think this Friday they play Stanford, maybe, or is it Friday or Saturday? They play Stanford. Stanford's not very good. I expect them. Is that on the road or at home? Yeah, they host Stanford. Stanford's not very good. It'll be interesting if Stanford gives them a game or not.
I'm with you on the dynamic of what took place this Saturday. For the first time in about a month or so, Colorado was not the feature program or the showcase game. Highly emotional loss to USC. Now you have to go on the road. Those games can be traps. And I thought there was some danger. And I believe, and I told you this a couple weeks ago, these two games, Arizona State and Stanford, were must win. You know why? Because the rest of the way, they're probably going to be the significant underdog as they go into a Pac-10 gauntlet or Pac-12. They got it done. They grinded one out. That in itself, I thought was pretty impressive. But you're right. I did not actually think about, he seemed more proud of a moral victory than an actual one. And I find that interesting. By the way, Stanford, they're not that good. Troy Taylor, who actually went to the rival school Cal, is trying to rebuild that program in a different way. They're pretty physical defensively. That's the thing. I've actually watched a little bit of Stanford. They've had a bad loss or two, but they've actually kept a few Pac-12 games close. So there is some progress being made there. And again, these games can be traps, but I think this game this weekend, it's vital that they win it and get the 5 wins, because the rest of the way, Jason, look at that schedule. I'm not so sure they win one after that.
Yeah, UCLA and something. And there's some teams in the Pac-12 that actually play defense. I think, what did UCLA give up? 13 rushing yards this past weekend?
Yeah. That's a good conference.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting for Deion. So there's your daily dose of Deion. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. I didn't want to break my streak of talking about Deion every week, so there you have it. All right, if you like this content, hop down in the comments. Tell us what you think. Deion doing a great job looking out for his son. But also, if you really like this content, support one of our great sponsors like Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 878-PATRIOT. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with all of our latest content.